Good morning, all. So today we have with us Miss Sunita Chauhan, and she will be dealing on reading section. So today she'll cover theory part of the reading, and I welcome Sunita ma'am. Over to you, Sunita ma'am. You can start your screen share if you wish.
Is my screen visible to all?
It is.
Okay, thank you. That's great. So once again, I would like to welcome you all to the day 4 of our INSET sessions. And I hope that our session goes as enriching as the others one we attended. So let's begin today's session. Now I would like to request Mr. Sachin. Sachin sir, can you just unmute yourself and read the quote by
Yes,
J.K.
ma'am.
Rowling? You have to read the quote. You can see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so please read the quote that is by J.K. Rowling.
That's the thing about book. They let you travel without moving your feet. Jump a Lahiri.
Okay. You read the quote by Jhumpa Lahiri. I asked you to read the quote by J.K. Rowling. Okay, no issues. Thank you. So can I request Supriya ma'am? Is she there? Supriya ma'am?
Good morning, ma'am.
Yeah, good morning. Can you just kindly unmute yourself and read the quote that talks about 1,000 lives?
Yes. A reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies. The man who never reads lives only one. George R.R. Martin.
Thank you. That's great. Now I would like to request Ritu Tyagi ma'am. Ritu ma'am, can you hear us?
Ji, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm hearing you.
Okay. Yes. So
Should
can
I
you read
read
the quote?
J.K. Rowling?
Can you read?
Ji.
No. Can you read the quote that talks about taking us to more places?
Between the pages of a book. Is this, ma'am?
You have to find out, ma'am. It's there on your screen.
Okay. Between the pages of a book is a lovely place to be. Famous.
Okay, but I asked you to read a quote that talks about taking one to different places.
Okay, ma'am. I'm
So
so
you
sorry.
need to be attentive.
Sorry, I
It's
couldn't get
okay.
you, ma'am. The
It's
more
all
that
right,
you
ma'am.
read,
But you read
the
beautifully. Thank you.
the more that you read, the more things you will know. The more that you learn, the more places you will go.
Thank
Dr.
you so
Seuss.
much. Thank you
Seuss.
so much. Thank you, Ritu ma'am. So as all the quotes are read by you, now any guesses what this session is all about? Any one of you can unmute yourself and tell us what the session is about.
Reading, ma'am. Reading skills.
Thank you, Ruby ma'am. Thank you. Yes,
The
this
session is going to be reading section.
yes, thank you, Satish sir. Thank you so much. So basically, in this session, we'll be talking about how to develop our reading skills of our students and how, as a teachers, we can help them. So reading is basically a cognitive process that involves decoding of symbols to arrive. And students arrive at meaning by constructing meaning by interacting with the text as individuals read. They use their prior knowledge along with clues from the text to construct meaning. And reading is not all about decoding the symbols, but to gain knowledge by understanding the text. So it is more of an active process of constructing meaning of words, and at the same time, it allows the reader to use their prior knowledge for doing that. And as we English teachers, we deal in our classrooms, and this is one of the 4 important skills that we know is very important for language learning. And as we all know that reading is also an input skill. The way listening is an input skill, the more we listen to a language, the more we are, proficient when it comes to speaking. So the same case is with reading. If we read well, our students are in a habit of reading regularly. They read their text properly, they read extra books, and they read newspapers. So they are good at writing, because reading always helps, and it always associated with other skills also. So reading is a very important skills. A language-rich environment is the foundation on which reading comprehension is based. And this is where we as teachers can help our students by providing the strategies and skill to create effective readers in our classrooms. So today we'll be discussing all the strategies that can help our students in enhancing their reading skills. But before going on to the next slide, I would request you all to participate in a small Padlet tool I will share with you in the chat box. So there will be a question on that Padlet wall, and you just have to read that question and answer. So the question is why reading is important. We just talked about what reading is and how it is, so I just want to know from you all how reading is important for our students. So just give me a minute. I'll be sharing that Padlet link in the chat box. You just have to click on that link and you will be taken to the Padlet site. There you will see a plus sign on the screen, and you will click on that sign and you will be able to register your responses. Just give me 1 second, I'll doing that. So I've pasted a link in the chat box. Is this link visible to all? Can any one of you unmute yourself and let me know?
No.
Uh, I have just posted the link. Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Sunita, the link is there.
Okay, so you just have to click on this link and you'll be taken to the Padlet site. There you will see a plus sign on the screen. So you just have to tick there on the plus sign and you'll be able to register your response. Why reading is important. And once you register your response, please write your name also. Or if you wish not to, then you can just leave it. Is my screen visible to everyone which says reading? There's a wall, Padlet wall. Yeah, I've started getting some responses. Okay. Yeah, I'm getting responses from a lot of the participants, and I can read one of them. For vocabulary development, understanding rules of grammar. Yes, that's true. Thank you. Why reading is important? It enhances our vocabulary and knowledge. For multi-perspective approach, yes, that is there. Reading is important for everyone as it helps us to comprehend what is written there. Unless we comprehend the text, we can't get the desired feel. Okay. I hope these responses are visible to all. Can you read your own responses on the wall, Padlet wall? Can any one of you just unmute yourself and let me know, as I'm not able to know whether you are able to see the wall or not?
Yes,
Meenu
ma'am.
ma'am, is it?
Sorry, we are
Okay,
able to see the wall. Yes, it was there.
okay, okay. So thank you so much for your wonderful responses, and you have a very good clarity why reading is important. I hope everyone is able to register their responses.
Yes, ma'am.
That's great. Thank you. Okay. And those who are by chance, if they're not able to, register their response on the Padlet, they can write in the chat box also. Okay, thank you, everyone. Let's move to the next slide now. Okay, so I read your responses, and reading is important for a wide variety of reasons, as you've already stated in your responses. And here are quick lines that we'll read, and we'll move on to the next slide. So I request any one of the participants to unmute themselves and read first two lines of the slide. Yes, ma'am, please do that.
Reading.
Enables you function in society, and much like reading, being functional in society develops a good self-image and leads to self-improvement. Reading develops the mind and improves your understanding.
Yeah, thank you, Sonal ma'am, for reading out that for us. Yes, reading enables one to function in society well. As we can see, if a person is well read, he has a rich vocabulary, he is more knowledgeable, and he has that confidence to, communicate with people in the society. So yes, it gives a kind of self-confidence to the person. If a person is well read, he always has an edge over others. And reading develops the mind and improves our understanding. That is very true. Reading is what exercise is to body, reading is to mind. So reading gives you a lot of mental and cognitive exercise, and it helps you in improving your understanding. Can I request one of you to read the next two lines?
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
Yes, please do that. Sangeeta ma'am, yes.
Yes, ma'am. Reading exercises your brain and improves concentration. Reading relaxes the body and calms the mind.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Definitely, it exercises our brain, and it improves our concentration. Whenever we read something, we try to put in our concentration to understand, because reading is all about comprehending. And it is a good cognitive exercise. When we read a book, or say we read a newspaper, we concentrate on a particular paragraph or a particular line to gauge the meaning. And reading relaxes the body and calms the mind. Yes, most of us have this hobby of reading books, and whenever we get a time in our busy lives and whenever we want to relax, we want to read a good book. So it has a very calming effect on our mind. Now, who's going to read the next two lines? Any one
Yes,
of you
ma'am.
can unmute yourself. Yes, please, Satish, sir.
Reading is how you discover and are exposed to new things. Books, magazine, the internet. By being exposed to new things, you learn to develop empathy. Reading your imagination and creativity.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yes, reading improves our imagination and creativity. The more authors we read, we get a peep into their thinking. We get a insight in the author's mind. We can just relate ourselves to that person who has created that piece of reading. So it and reading whenever we read something, it is always about lives and human and society. So we kind of develop an empathy feeling also. When we read about something, we relate to a character. We understand how one is behaving and what characters they are showing. So we kind of learn many things from reading. It's just not the words or the meaning or the vocabulary. It's all together a new perspective every time we read a book, and we get a new learning. And who's going to read the next two?
Ma'am, can I?
Yes, please.
Yes, ma'am. Reading helps you grow your vocabulary and improve your spelling. Reading helps you to learn better.
Yes, definitely. The more we read, the more enhanced is our vocabulary skills, and we have a very rich vocabulary bank, and it improves our spellings, it improves our grammar, and reading helps you to learn better. Of course, that is there. The more we read, the better we are at it. And finally, reading improves reading. Now, what is this? Can anyone explain this? Reading improves reading.
Yes, ma'am. Reading improves reading because it enhances our vocabulary. So we become more interested in reading, and we can still read more books if we start with one.
Yes, very true, Sangeeta ma'am. Thank you so much. So the more you read, the better you become at it, and the more you are bound to enjoy it, and greater the chances that you will enjoy learning more. It's a cycle, you read and you read, and
B तेरह बारह
you fall in love with books and reading, and
13 12
you have a
नगर
very
हम्म
I request the participants to kindly mute themselves. Thank you. Okay, so we've talked about reading, what is reading, and why reading is important. Now, as teachers, we deal with reading sections in our classrooms, and we want our students to be good readers. Yes, thank you, ma'am. So basically, there are certain skills that we want our students to practice so that they become good readers. And as English teachers, we always struggle with this thing that we always say that our students are not very proficient readers. They are not able to read their text at some. In classes like 6th, 7th, 8th, sometimes we struggle that the students which are coming from primary classes, they struggle with their textbooks. They're not able to read them with fluency, with correct pronunciation. So there are certain skills that we who is speaking? Actually, I'm not able to hear you properly. Your voice is breaking. If you want to say something, you can just write in the chat box. Thank you.
yeah ma'am I have a question related to the about topic.
Yes, sir.
Could you explain the what are the basic differences of empathy and sympathy? How we differentiate these two words?
So sympathy is that we show concern to a person, and empathy is more about that we put ourselves into that situations and react accordingly. Sympathy is that we generally, even if we don't mean that, we don't relate to that particular problem or person, we just say, oh, it's very bad, it should not be like that. But empathy is that we put ourselves in that situation, in that person's shoes, and we feel that what he or she is going through, and then we talk according to that. That is empathy.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, Satish sir. Can we move now? Okay. So basic skills for reading are decoding, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. So these are some basic skills that our students should have when it comes to reading. Now, the very basic skill is decoding. Sometimes when we are in class, we face this situation that the student is able to, they understand what this alphabet is, but they are not able to, read out the whole word, because somehow their decoding capacity is not developed. So decoding or sounding out words is the first step in reading. Children can decode when they understand that each letter of the alphabet has a corresponding sound. For example, if it's written mat, so the moment the child sees the word print word mat on the page or the book, he knows that M stands for a mer sound, and he blends together the sounds and he produces the word. So decoding is a very important skill that our students should have when they are, reading books. So this one skill gives them an edge to read properly. They are able to, decode words and they read fast. Second skill that is required is vocabulary, as we have already talked about. You have already attended a full session on this vocabulary. Vocabulary is the currency for any language. Good readers increase their vocabulary every time they read, and if they have a rich vocabulary, they are good readers. They begin by developing a sight words vocabulary. I hope you know about sight words. Can any one of you tell me what are sight words?
Yes, ma'am, the words which appear regularly, like the and such words which keep on appearing in a text again and again, and if they understand and they can read those words, it helps them.
Thank you, Sangeeta ma'am. You're very right. Sight words are a high frequency word. When we say high frequency word, yes, ma'am has said appear in daily life. That we, witness regularly. We see it more often in our textbook. We hear that word regularly. And these are very common words that are there in our, communication. So they are called sight words. And sight words are words that are frequently found in common speeches, such as the, what, where, was, and. There are many, many sight words that we practice every day. And the third skill that is required for reading is, of course, fluency. Here, I would like to ask you a question. Do you think the students, those who come to our classes, they are fluent readers? If I talk about percent in a class, say 50 students are there in a class. So what percent of students are fluent readers? You can write your responses in the chat box, and you can unmute yourself and tell me, do you think all our readers are fluent readers?
Definitely not, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, Ritesh sir is saying about 10%. Yes. So the percentage depends upon the class we have. If it's a Pratibha or a English medium section, so the percentage can be, anywhere between 20 to 30% also. It can be more than that and it can be less than that. So on an average, less than 50% of our students, I would say, and some are saying hardly 5%. Yes. So it's a very problematic situation when it comes to fluency, because although our students are able to decode, they have certain vocabulary. They are not blank. They come with a vocabulary bank, although it's more of a passive vocabulary that they carry to the classroom. But when it comes to fluency, they kind of, feel at loss. Fluency is the ability to read accurately with the expression and at the speed that lends itself to comprehension. Fluent readers will be able to read smoothly without having to take a lot of time to sound out words, because we face this challenge in the classroom whenever we ask students to read. Although they read, but they break the words, they take long pauses, and they come out with words, and their pronunciation is not that good. So that kind of hampers their fluency. So this is one skill that we need to work upon. And the last one is comprehension. As we've already talked about, that reading is a very cognitive process, and it's all about making meaning and understanding the text. So comprehension is again a basic skill that develops as children learn to sound out words and recognize sight words. All above three skills are required for a comprehension. The more they read, the easier it is for them to remember specific things like the main character, setting, and plot. As reading skills progresses, children develop comprehension skills like inferring, evaluating, and retelling. So we are moving on to the next slide, and we'll see how we can, just do some little practices or introduce some strategies that will help our students to master these basic 4 skills so they become good readers. So as we've talked about decoding, so decoding, as we've already talked about, it's more about, pronouncing the words correctly and, quickly understanding what the text and the sound is, how they can be mashed together and produce the sound. So we, for making this practice, we can use the objects that are readily available in our classrooms. We can use newspapers, we can use wrappers, because when we use our normal textbooks, the child, they get bored. Whenever you give them something new, whether it's just a newspaper slip, they find it interesting. They look forward to it. They think ma'am is going to do something new today, because they kind of, get this strange feeling when it comes to their own textbook. They find it boring. They doesn't want to read them all and all again. So whenever we give them something new, and because ultimately we want the child to develop these skills for life. It's just not for the English period, because English is just not a subject, it's a full language. And later on, the child has to, use that language in life. So why not give him such practices that helps him later on in life also. So we can give some newspapers where he can find the sight words that we have already talked about, and we can do some exercises. As you can see on the screen, that we can choose, ask them to highlight the words, or we can ask them to look for specific things, because reading is all about comprehending also. And later on, when they'll be appearing in the exam, they have to look for specific information to answer the comprehension questions. Can you see this activity on your screen? This newspaper clipping is visible to all?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So can you quickly think of an activity that we can do with this that can help our students to read, to decode some words? What activities we can plan? It's a poem. Make your own mask, and I have taken it because it's very relevant as we are all facing COVID times. And always try to link your activities with the current scenario so that the student is able to relate it to more. So what can we do with this? What activities we can plan with it? Okay, ma'am is saying we can do a DIY. We can ask students to prepare masks, but how it is going to help in reading? Can any one of you unmute yourself and tell us?
Ma'am, I'm not able to see the poem because the font size is very small. Can't read it, but we can talk about certain things which are required to make mask and already give them certain keywords. And when they read it, it will click them and probably they will be able to read and understand the things.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sangeeta ma'am. We can ask them to look for sight words. We can ask them to look for, rhyming words, or we can ask them to read and understand and then make accordingly. As you said, the DIY can be done with it. But before that, they need to read the instructions. So these are small activities that can be done. And one more interesting activities is that our students like physical activities. So we can, just associate some actions with the sight words. Like if we can say, I can see more, there are it is used many times in this poem. So we can associate, we can say whenever this word it will come in the poem, you just have to stand up. So make it with hope. The moment the students say make it with hope, they have to stand up when this hear this sound it. So it kind of involves them, it creates their interest and they pay more attention. They're more attentive that when the word it will come, they have to stand up. Likewise, we can, make is used many times. So we can say when this word make will come, you have to clap your hands. So it kind of, create their interest and they are very attentive in the class and they try to read, they try to pay full attention to what ma'am is saying because they have to do that activity. They want to enjoy that activity. So it's more about making the class more joyful so that the child takes interest. As we all know that English is not their first language, it's a second language, and it is a language that they are not exposed to at their homes. They get the access to this language only in their English class, that is only for 40 or 30 minutes, I would say. So it's a very small time to get acquainted with the language. So whenever we are in the language class, we as teachers should try to make most of it. We should try to make efforts to give them that exposure to the language. As you've already done 2 sessions on speaking and listening, you know the importance of those skills very well. So reading is associated with all other skills. So they need to listen, they need to read it more. And why they will read? Because when it will be of their interest. Anything that interests us, we try to learn that more, So this is one activity that can be done. And other activities, small activities that we can do is draw your words or sentences. If the students, as teachers, we can judge them very well. We can understand they are at the beginner level or they're the advanced readers, so we can give them task accordingly. If it's a neonishta section or the students are, not very good at reading, they're not very good at, comprehending. So we can, start with small activities. We can ask them to draw your words, but for that they need to read the word correctly. If they read the word correctly, then only they'll be able to draw it properly. So here are some examples. I hope you can see that on the screen. Okay, now let's do some facial exercises. Decoding emotions. These kind of exercises, as we are taking online classes now, so we are not in the physical classroom. So we can do some small activities to, make it engaging and interesting for our students. So let's do it. So if you're comfortable, can any one of you just open your camera and show me this facial expression, sleepy expression? Can someone give me the sleepy expression? Just open your camera for a while. Nobody wants to volunteer? Actually, I'm not able to see the full screen also. Okay, so these are some of the activities that we can do in our online classes nowadays, that we can ask our students to make faces, and they can understand, they can decode the words, they can read the words first and then act accordingly. So it is also a good exercise that helps, to make the class more enriching, and students, they notice the word, they get new words in their vocabulary: frightened, suspicious, confused. So new vocabulary is also added to their vocabulary bank. Now, vocabulary. What we can do to enhance the vocabulary of our students? Ela ma'am has taken a very good session on this. So can any one of you just unmute yourself and tell us how vocabulary can be enhanced? Aruna ma'am, can you just unmute yourself and tell us what activities we can take to our classroom to enhance the vocabulary of our students?
Antakshari ma'am.
Yes, please. Someone is saying something? Tanvi ma'am, can you just unmute yourself and tell us how we can help our students to enrich their vocabulary bank? Ritesh sir is typing something. Yes, ma'am, please.
Good morning, ma'am. So we can provide, normal words to the students, like content. So we can tell the students that they can add before and after these words. So this will help them enrich their vocabulary. Like content can become contentment or discontent. So, and even simple words like happy will become unhappy. And using
Yeah, thank you. That is, you're talking about prefix and suffixes, right?
right. And antonyms and
Yeah,
synonyms we
that's
can
good.
provide them. We can go for
Yeah,
phrases
Savita ma'am
also.
is saying.
Oh.
Yes, please, Tanvi ma'am. Thank you so much for your. And I can see some of the responses in the chat box also. Thank you so much. So vocabulary is the foundation skill that improves our reading comprehension, and we can also say that reading improves our vocabulary. So it's vice versa. If you have a good vocabulary, you will be a good reader, and if you're a good reader, you will be keep adding to your vocabulary. Yes, ma'am is saying graffiti wall. Yes, we make this sight words charts and we paste that in our classroom so that students get access to it by giving synonyms, antonyms, word games. Yes, there are lots and lots of word games nowadays. As we have the advantage of this online classes, we can search any n number of games on the Google and we can use them in our classrooms. As we've already talked about, developing sight vocabulary is very, very important in our classrooms, and we can use certain things, that is newspaper highlights, language games like bingo, preparing word walls, labeling their own daily use items. We can ask them to label the objects in their bag, whether it's a book, notebook, pencil box, water bottle. We can ask them to label them. Memory games as such as I went to the market, playing riddles. These all help in developing the vocabulary. So this is a newspaper clip cutting that I have used. And we can, give this newspaper to do n number of activities. We can do grammar activities with it. We can ask them to, just underline nouns. We can ask them to underline sight words. We can ask them to make words and sentences. So many activities can be taken up with daily uses things. So here is, I'll quickly show a quick game. Okay, peace. So now I would like to request any one of you to unmute yourself and give me an antonym of this word. Peace. The antonym for peace is?
War.
War. Okay, great. Thank you. That was quick. Once again, I play hardworking. So can any one of you quickly make a sentence with this word hardworking? Ritesh sir? Ritesh sir, can you make a sentence?
Lencho was a hardworking farmer.
That's great. Thank you. Lencho was a hardworking farmer. So these kind of games that we can play in our classrooms, and we can, use this to make them work on their vocabulary. They can make sentences. They can give us synonyms. They can give us antonyms. They can, just add prefix to it, suffix to it. And there are many, many activities that can be done in our classrooms. Okay, now I would like to ask you a question. As you all are English teachers, you must have checked the question papers of our students. And reading section is one of the favorite section of our students, and they score good marks into it. But as a teacher, what I felt during my teaching years, that students, they if it's a 20 marks passage, most of the student, they score 15 to 16 or 17 marks, but they always lose marks in vocabulary section. What is your take? This is my experience. Like most of the students, they struggle because as you've seen the question paper, most of the last 4 questions, they are about vocabulary, checking the vocabulary of students. Do you think most of the student, sorry, Sonal ma'am, your voice is not audible enough. Can you say that again?
Yes, ma'am. This happens most of the time. Students don't answer the synonyms and antonyms of difficult words. They are not
Yes.
aware of their meanings also.
Yes, you're right, Sonal ma'am. Thank you. So no matter how many vocabulary drills we do in the classroom, the students are never, they're not, for that matter, even we as teachers cannot, say that we know all the words in the dictionary. No, because dictionary is updated every year. Every time new words are added to it, some words are deleted. So no one can master all the vocabulary in the world. The same is the case with our students. They cannot, no matter how many vocabulary drills we do in our classroom, they still face problem when it comes to vocabulary and uh, judging the meaning or finding the synonym. So there is one thing that they can do and we can train our student is that is using contextual clues, because when they are reading a passage, when they have to find out the synonym or antonym, so they need to try to find out by reading the text. So read the sentence before and after the word, which will provide the sufficient clues to the students to get a broader meaning and then to arrive to the desired meaning. Here is an example. Can you see this example? Can you see this example on your screen? This is an example from our 9th class book. I want that toy, he pleaded. His father looked at him red-eyed in his familiar tyrant's way. Now, the student may not be aware of the word tyrant. He may be listening it to the first time. So how can we train our student to look for a possible meaning? We can ask him to go back to the line and refer. The moment he reads this line again, red-eyed. When a person is red-eyed, when he or she is angry. So the students, kind of judge the meaning now. Because most of these vocabulary questions come in MCQ format and there are 4 options, the student can, easily judge the meaning when he reads the text again and try to, guess the meaning. Because every time we cannot give a dictionary meaning to the student and the student cannot recall the dictionary meaning for every word. So he or she should be trained to, look for contextual clues that help them to decode the words. So as a quick cue card I have used, can any one of you just read this sentence? Is it visible to all?
Yes,
Sri
ma'am.
Chaitanya concurs again. The result are the proof. The numbers are the truth.
So do you think the student will be able to know the meaning of this word conquers? So what is, which option is correct now?
Conquers means means defeat करना, यानी कि एक प्रकार से किसी को हराना, यानी कि
Yes, sir. So we can ask our students to go back to the text and read it carefully so that they, they just read the line before the word and after the word to make sense of it, to get a contextual clue so that they can decode the meaning. Now, if the child reads Shri Chaitanya conquers again, the results are the proof. So he is aware it is related to what? Defeat, or, when we win something. So he can guess that meaning. Yes, this is the possible meaning. So these are kind of the things that we can help our students learn to give them an advantage when it comes to answering vocabulary questions. So this is another clue, but as we are running short of time, we won't give much time to it. Now, fluency, as we've already talked about, that fluency is ability to read accurately and with great speed, good speed. So punctuate your fluency. Punctuation plays a very important part when it comes to fluency. and our students are very well aware of the punctuation marks, but when it comes to reading, they kind of just we have heard teachers saying train choot rahi hai kya, why are you so fast? So they don't consider the commas, they don't consider the full stops. The moment you ask them to read, they just start reading without taking much time to pause for a say comma or a full stop and exclamation marks. So they kind of just most of the time they ignore this important thing, but we as teachers need to make them practice it more, because punctuation matters a lot. So here's a slide. Can anyone read it out for me? Okay. And now Satish sir, can you read it now?
Woman without her man is nothing.
And how about this now?
Woman without her man is nothing.
So now we can all see how punctuation makes difference, how it just changes the whole meaning of the sentence. So punctuation plays a very important part, and we need to guide our students how to use punctuations while writing, how to use them when speaking or reading out, because most of the time we see that when it comes to writing, they are more aware of the punctuation marks, they know where to put it, but when it comes to reading, they kind of ignore it, or they don't practice it as it should be. So we need to train our students. So you can all laugh a little and you can just read how these punctuation marks making all the difference in the picture. Is this picture visible to all?
Yeah, ma'am.
So you can see how it's making a difference.
Yes, ma'am.
And the next one is an epic one. Can anyone read it out for me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Let's
please, Sangeeta ma'am, please.
let's eat, grandma. Let's eat, grandma.
Yes. So a small comma can save the life. Okay. So thank you, everyone. That's all for the first session. Uh, I guess we are through with this session's time. We'll be meeting again after the break off. Ma'am, Chanchal ma'am, how much time we have with us for the next session?
Actually, ma'am, the session was supposed to end at 10:10 and it's already 10:20. So is it possible that we continue with the session or just take a 5 minutes break? Whatever you
Ma'am,
wish.
okay, we can take a 5 minutes break and we can come back.
Fine, fine. So
Okay,
after five
thank you.
minutes, we'll be meeting. Fine.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay,
thank
we'll
you.
continue after 5 minutes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
रोशन के दोस्त हमारा घर है इलाहाबाद में प्रयागराज यूपी हाँ हाँ
Ma'am, can we start now?
Yes, ma'am, we can. I think all the participants are here. So we can start with our next period on reading section. Sunita ma'am, you can start with the session.
Okay, thank you everyone and welcome once again. So this particular section, in the earlier section, we dealt with the reading part and how those 4 basic skills can be developed to make our students good readers. And this particular session will be dealing with reading comprehension. Now, what is reading comprehension basically? Reading comprehension is the ability to process text, understand its meaning, and to integrate with what the readers already knows. As we've already talked about that whenever we judge the reading section, we always, the student always try to connect it with their previous knowledge. Fundamental skills that are required in efficient reading comprehension are ability to understand meaning of the word from the context, as we've already done the context clues and everything. Ability to follow organization of passage and to identify antecedents and references. Ability to draw inferences from a passage about its contents. Ability to identify the main thought of a passage. And at the end, ability to answer question asked in the passage, because we have whenever we deal with reading comprehension, our target is to make our students score good marks and understand and comprehend it well so that they can answer the questions properly. Okay, comprehension skills that can be taught and applied to all reading situations. The number 1 is summarizing. Now, we as teachers need to make this practice very regular with our students. We need to, whenever we give them anything to read, we need to ask them to summarize whatever they have read, because most of the time when they get passages, they are lengthy, they are 300 to 400 words passages, and they need to practice how to take out the important ideas, because summarizing is not just paraphrasing the whole thing again. It's about taking out the most important ideas and putting them into their own words and thoughts. So this skill is very important for comprehension skill. The second one is sequencing. Sequencing refers to identification of the components of the story. The child should be very well aware of the beginning, middle, and the end. And I guess we as a language teacher, most of the time we practice this in our classrooms. We ask our students to, we give them jumbled up sentences from the chapter or the story that we have done. And we ask them to arrange them in a proper sequence. Next is inference. This is a very high order skill that is needed for comprehension, because there are 2 kind of reading. One is literal reading and one is inferential reading. Literal is the moment child reads a particular passage or a paragraph, he understands the obvious meaning. But inference is kind of a hidden meaning that is not actually visible to the reader. They need to, when we say read between the lines, we ask them to read carefully and understand what is not very visible. And this comes handy when we are dealing with poems, because most of the poets, they play with words, they use lots of imagery, lots of symbols, lots of figures of speech. So these skills come handy when the child is dealing with the poem section, or for that he's comprehending a complex text. So inferencing is a very important skill that a child should know. Again, the next one is comparing and contrasting. We do this when we do the character sketch. We ask our students to compare. Our students knows the difference. They know how to compare. They know that they have to tell the similarities and differences, but they sometimes get confused when it comes to contrasting. Because contrasting doesn't ask them to show the positive and the negative side. It talks about the difference between the two, what difference they can see. So we need to kind of make them understand the difference between the two concepts. Relating background knowledge, we as teachers always we we always say that we need to check the prior knowledge of the students, because all students, those who come to our classes, they are not blank. They come with their certain vocabulary bank. So as a teacher, we need to capitalize on that vocabulary bank. We need to make use of that vocabulary bank that is already with the child, because that also gives them a sense of confidence. The moment they realize that they already know something, and we also say that we need to start from known to unknown. So we always need to start with the background knowledge. Distinguish between fact and opinion. This is a very important critical skills that we want a child to develop, as it is also a 21st century skill, critical thinking. So the child should be able to know which is a fact and which is an opinion, because nowadays, as we are using online platforms, we give any task to the student and they Google it, and the Google gives them thousands of responses for a particular word. So now here the child needs to use his judgment skills, his critical thinking, which is important, which is a fact, which is an opinion. He or she should know that difference. And the last is, as we've already talked about, finding the main idea or the central or important idea in the paragraph. So these are certain skills that can be applied to all reading situations, and we want our students to practice these skills to become good readers and to gain those comprehension skills. Okay, as we've talked about fact or opinion, here is a quick exercise. So can any one of you read this?
The boy held his mother's hand as he crossed the street.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so now we have three options in front of us. Who is the first one is the boy is coward. The second is the boy was with his mother, and third one is he is an obedient son. So which out of three you think is a fact and which is opinion? Quickly tell me. Samriddhi ma'am, can you tell me?
And the point B is in fact, and A is an opinion.
And why this is so?
Because there's no inference in the the sentence that the boy is a coward or something, but the boy is certainly with his mother because he's holding her hand. No, so that is definitely truth. And the upper one is definitely an opinion, because we can think he's a coward or maybe he's being too cautious or anything. This is our opinion.
Yeah, thank you so much. So facts are something that can be, verified, that can be seen, that are obvious. And opinion is something that is biased, that what we think, we cannot prove that. We don't have any, evidence to prove that. So ma'am is very right. The second one is the fact and the other two are opinions. So we can do these small exercise with our students. As we are teachers, we are very quick with the responses. But when we give these kind of exercise to our students, they kind of, take a lot of time to judge which one is a fact and which one is an opinion. So such activities are very important so that a student exercise their cognitive aspect and they, try to judge which is fact or which is opinion. And quickly, we have a second one also. So I would request Aruna ma'am, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am.
Quickly read the second one.
Movie star received an Oscar award for her portrayal as the first female president.
And the options for this we have, yes.
The movie star could be president if she wanted. Audiences of all ages enjoyed the film. The actress won an award.
Thank you, ma'am. So which one is the fact?
Third one, ma'am.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Third one is the fact and other two are opinion, because it's very evident that the actress won an award. Now, whether she can become a president, that's an opinion. Whether all people enjoyed it, we cannot say that for sure. That's also an opinion. So these kind of exercise can be done in the classroom, and we don't have to take these facts and opinion from outside the classroom. We can take that from the chapters also. So we can do these small exercises. Okay, now reading is thinking. As we all know that reading requires our cognitive brain. So reading is thinking. Whenever we read something, we try to predict, use clues to infer what we mean happen. जैसे अभी हमने थोड़ी देर पहले भी देखा था. We tried using that contextual clues in our vocabulary session. Connect. Use what I know to understand the text better. Connect is always connecting to the previous knowledge. Info, that we try to make sense. We try to look for hidden meanings. We try to understand what the author trying to say. Question. We always have questions when we read, because questioning skill is required to make us comprehend a particular text. Unless and until we are asking question what, why, how, we are not able to comprehend. Visualize. Whenever we read, and if we are a fluent reader, we kind of create a mental image of what we are reading. I have experienced it many times. Whenever I read a novel or a book, I kind of start living the life of that character. I can, visualize things happening around me. So a very good author takes you to his own world. He plays beautiful with the words. He, give beautiful imagination, and you feel that you are living that. So we kind of visualize what we are reading. Summarize, again, determine which ideas are most important. As I have told you, this is a very important skill that we need to, put in practice with our students very often, as students need to know which ideas they need to leave, because they cannot, just mug up the 300, 400 letter words passage. They need to summarize. They need to understand what is important. So these are some of the things that is required for a good reading comprehension. Now, here's a worksheet. Can you see this?
Yes,
so what
ma'am.
happens?
Please zoom
Yes.
in.
So
Please zoom in.
okay, I'll try to. It's kind of not able to do it. Okay. Anyways, when we gives okay, whenever we give our students a passage to comprehend, what they generally do. If we give them questions, what they generally do, what habit they have. They kind of just look the question. They try to find out the same question word in the passage, and they kind of just copy and paste the same lines in the answer. This is what they do. Can you write your responses in the chat box? Yes, Samriddhi ma'am.
They do just the same thing, and sometimes in
Yes.
just a single word answer, they would write 4 sentences.
Yes, you're right, because where this has trickled down by the teachers only, that if you're not able to understand, you at least write something. That's okay. Initially we can give them such kind of but later on, because they'll be progressing to next and higher levels, and they need to comprehend. So we kind of give them such practices, as you can see in this particular sheet in front of you. Here it is asking, where is tubby? Now circle the picture of the tubby. Now the child don't have to answer the just the exact answer. He need to look at the picture. He need to understand which one is tubby, because he need to read the paragraph to see the character sketch that describes tubby. So the moment he reads properly, then only he'll be able to circle. And the next question is true or false. Whenever we give true and false question, that needs comprehending the text, because the child can say whether the statement is true or false only if he has understood the text. So instead of giving them, so we can start with such exercises. They're very colorful. They engage them, and at the same time, we can check as a teacher whether they are just copy pasting or they are, making sense of the text also. So there are many such kind of worksheets available on many platforms. This is from EnglishForKids.com. and we have Pinterest, and we have many sites from where we can download such small worksheets, and we can give them for practicing. Next is animal clues. As you can see, there are some 4 or 5 animals pictures are there, and at the end of the worksheet there are descriptions like I am fat and pink, I like to eat, who am I? So the unless and until the child reads, now he really needs to find out which one fits where, and for that he needs to understand, he needs to read. So these kind of small exercises we can do with our beginner level of students. Okay, now we've talked about reading comprehension and what all we can do to increase the comprehension skills of our students. But as you all are TGTs, you will be dealing with 9th and 10th classes. So this year there are certain changes in the question paper. I would like to discuss that with you. So the very first change that you will see is, first I'll talk about the similarities. The similarity is that we have 2 passages. Earlier also we had 2 passages, and the total weightage of this reading section remains the same. It's 20 marks only. But the only difference is earlier it was 8 mark. One question was 8 marker questions, and we have multiple options. And second question was for 12 marks. It included objective type of questions as well as some MCQs for vocabulary testing. Now the change is that in this new pattern that a student will be facing in 2021 board exam, 9th and 10th, that they'll be having first question of around 400 to 450 words, and it will be of 10 marks. And they'll get a choice of 12 questions. They would be able to attempt any 10 out of those 12. And second question will be also a multi-choice question based, but it will be a factual or a case study based passage of 300 to 350 words. And again, they will be getting a choice of 12 and they have to attempt any 10. So as English teacher, we need to, understand the new pattern, and this is what we will be, telling our students so that they are also aware what are the changes. This time there is no subjective question, only MCQs. And sometimes children, they feel that MCQs are better, they are easy, but as a teacher I say that it's not that easy, because MCQs, the options given in the MCQs, they are very close to the answer. So the child needs to be very, very attentive while he or she is just attempting the answers, because every answer seems correct to them. So their comprehension skills have to be very, very good to attempt correctly, because all questions, as you see, you feel very close to each other answers. So this is the one thing that we wanted you to know, the change in the pattern. I hope everyone is aware now. Let's move. This is one worksheet that I have taken for your reference. What kind of questions will be given? As you can see, the first question is MCQ based, and the second question is MCQ based, and the second is choose the option that lists the pair of statements that are not true according to the given extract. So not true is like we've said that the child, just say we have already done in the earlier slide, it was like true and false. So the child needs to comprehend the text very, very carefully so that he knows which facts are not true and which are true. So these kind of questions will come, and there will be like incorrect. The extract uses the phrase gave away. Mark is cross the expression which is incorrect with respect to the word give. So they won't use such words, give, antonym or synonym. They'll use it in a different way, like it is given in the third question. So we as a teacher need to read the sample paper given on the CBSE website carefully to understand what kind of questions will be asked, so that we can train our students accordingly. And as we talk about reading comprehension, so graphic organizers comes a very I would say they help us a lot, because whenever a student read a text, they kind of make notes, and graphic organizers help them to make very quick and very I would say very easy notes for them. They can, draw. They can, you can see the samples here. They can make those folders. They can make a web out of it for their own understanding, so that they get into this habit of underlining important things and making small notes that will come handy when they're revising or when they are answering the questions. To decode news, as we have already talked about, that this is an important skill for reading. So WH questions they can practice by such activities. Here you can see a small clipping from the newspaper, and on base of this clipping the student have to answer the following question: what, where, why, when, how. So such kind of comprehension questions need to be asked to the students to gauge whether the student have understood the passage or the text, or they have just read it. And the next one is to summarize chapters. As we've already talked about, that the student should know sequencing. And it comes handy when they have to write stories. As you all know, that story writing is an important question in our question paper. So it helps in reading as well as writing, because as we all know that no skill takes place in isolation. So reading is related to other skills also, as we have already talked about, that reading is one of the input skills for writing. So the more we read and the more we understand, we are better writers. So we can, whenever we read the text, we can always ask the students to categorize the beginning, the middle, the end. And when the student is doing that, he or she is comprehending the text properly. Next is story map. Now, can any one of you tell me how this will help? And have you tried such kind of activities in your classrooms? Any one of you?
I think this will certainly help the child remember the details and everything.
Yes. Story mapping, as I said earlier, that when we read a text, we kind of visualize things. So when we read a passage, we visualize, we kind of make mental note of important points: main character, their character sketches, title, author, end, middle, beginning. So such kind of, cutouts or small drawings they can make. They can annotate their own textbook. They can make small notes for their references later on. So it's a very good habit to make notes while you're reading or doing something. And we can make a reading response sheet also, so that the student have their own goals. They can understand how they are progressing further. So this week I want to master. They can have small targets, quotes that I learned from the text today, because every textbook, every chapter has certain idioms, quotes. So they can write them down. I think this happened because of this. So they kind of know the causes, reasoning. So they kind of practice the thinking skills. Another small exercise that can be done is characters name, because characterization is another important when it comes to writing, reading. So readers can follow a character as they undergo changes in their feeling. As we see whenever we read a chapter or a story, the main characters, they undergo certain emotional changes. They have certain feelings, and it according to the middle, beginning, and the end, they undergo certain changes. So we can track those feelings, and we can decide, we can understand the inferential meaning, or the author's, we can peep into the author's mind, what he's trying to say through the characters. So these small exercises can help our students to become good readers, and they can improve their reading comprehension skills. Next one is again a visualizing graphic organizer. As I've already talked about, they're very handy, they're very helpful, and they kind of, give this practice to students later on in 11th and 12th class. We all know that they have to do this note making, and this note making habit goes a great way. Even we go to college or higher classes, we make notes. So readers must listen to the words as they read and create pictures in their mind to go with the words. So they can, write or illustrate some mental images. Some students like to draw, visual effects attract them more. We have all kind of readers in our classroom. We have visual readers, we have auditory readers. So these kind of things can help them. So this I have taken from the 10th class book, The Midnight Visitor. We can make such kind of folders to, make our student read the chapter properly, and then they can write the main ideas for examination point of view. So here you can see that they can write the main idea, cause and the effect, characters, compare and contrast, sequencing can be done. They can write what was the fact in the chapter, what's the opinion, and what is their take on the story. So these kind of foldables, they make our classroom more engaging, fun, and the student try to retain it for a longer time. Whenever the student is involved in the learning process actively, he retains the knowledge for a longer time. Okay, we've talked about many activities and how that can be done. So one such activities that we can do to increase the reading comprehension skill of our students is partner reading. Partner reading, I would say, is another important practice that we can do in our classrooms, because sometimes our students are very shy. They don't want to read in front of the teacher, as they have their own fears. They have this fear of being laughed at. They have this problem of as they are not very fluent in reading. So we can give them a chance to sit with their partner, and we as a teacher, as a facilitator, can observe them and help them. And one other practice is jigsaw reading. Is anyone aware what is jigsaw reading? Have you heard the term jigsaw reading? Okay. So jigsaw reading is a strategy that emphasizes cooperative learning by providing students an opportunity to build their comprehension skills by using one another or helping one another. Use this technique to assign students to read groups composed of various skill levels. Like in a jigsaw reading, we can, what we can do is we can make groups of 4 or 5 students, and we give a particular paragraph of the text to the student, and we can ask them to read it properly and master that. And once, yes, group reading, it's a group reading. Ma'am Savita ma'am has just written in the chat box. So at the end of the, we give them a time slot of 10 to 15 minutes to read a particular paragraph. And at the end of 15 minutes, we ask one of the students from the main group, and we say, if we have divided the students into group of 1, group of 2, 3. So we ask on ones to come together so that they have mastered a particular passage, and they can, tell other students about it. So it's like mastering small passages, and at the end of the chapter, or say at the end of the period, most of the students are aware of the whole concept, and they understand it well. So jigsaw reading, you can see the YouTube videos, you will get many ideas from there. So these are certain strategies that we can, implement in our classrooms to make our readers practice their comprehension skills. So at the end, there are some important do's. So I would like any one of you to read the first 2 important things that we as a teacher needs to do in a classroom. So may I ask Ritu Tyagi ma'am to read the first 2? Ritu ma'am, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am, I will you.
Yes, please read it out.
Ma'am, first 2 lines I need to read.
Yes, ma'am.
Give time to the students to read whatever they have listened to. Whatever they have listened to or spoken during the day. Not
Yes,
repetition is not only in listening and speaking, but also in reading.
Yeah, thank you, Ritu ma'am. So no matter how cliches it may sound, but repetition is required for any skill. We need to ask them to read repeatedly, and we need to, give them this atmosphere. As you see, in primary classes, we have class libraries, and in secondary sections, we have our students have one library period every week. So we as a teacher need to inculcate this habit of picking books apart from their textbooks, so that the student, they develop this reading habit. It is very, very important, because our students, they don't have this reading habit, as we already know what kind of, background they have of this knowledge. So as a teacher, we need to build this ability of reading books, and we can always suggest some good books to them. But while suggesting, we should always keep in mind the level of the student, because most of the students, they find their own textbook very difficult. For those students, we can suggest books that are print rich, that are very attractive, that have a big font size and less number of words, so that the student feel, happy when they're reading it, they can understand. So it's always like start from simple to complex. We can always give them level 1 or 2 books, and then we can ask them to, graduate as they feel confident. Now I would like to request Satish sir to read the next 2 lines. Satish sir.
Just a minute, Sunita ma'am, just sorry to interrupt, like
Yes.
4 minutes or 5 minutes to wind up.
Okay. So I'll quickly read the important do's. Try that students learn at least 2 words per day, as we've already talked about. That vocabulary is very important, and we can do these vocabulary drills in our classrooms. Recapitulate what the student did the previous day. Recapitulation is very important, as we've said that we need to be consistent with our practices. Next is pair reading. As I have already told you, that pairing reading is very important for the confidence building of the child. More reading material, big picture storybooks, colorful books, and whatever that attracts the child, that can be given to the child to make them read, to make them develop this habit of reading. And as a teacher, we can also, because teacher is the role model, as a teacher, we can also discuss which books we read, which ones are our favorites, so we can discuss those with our students, and we can, always motivate them to read more and more. So that's all for this session today. Thank you so much. I hope this will help you in, taking some of the strategies to your classroom. So we will end with this quote. Read everything you can get your hands on. Read until words become your friends. Then when you need to find one, they will jump into your mind, and you can select whichever you like, just like a captain choosing a stickball team. So this is a very good quote by Karen. So at the end, I would just like to say that read a lot and motivate your students to read, and definitely they'll be good readers. They'll gain those skills that are required for reading. So that's all from my side. So quickly, if anyone wants to just say what are their takeaways from these 2 sessions, I would like you to unmute yourself and quickly tell us the 2 takeaways from this session that you would like to take into your classrooms. We have one.
Going into the theoretical part, I would say that, I have now got an approach by which I can actually ask students to start things from, if they are lacking on something, so I would start from the beginning. When they are in 9th class, 10th class, they have a certain expectations. The department, the education system has certain expectations that they have learned this much. But ma'am, most of the times the students don't have that knowledge. They are sometimes not even the level of 7th class or 8th class. But now I think I would have something to approach them with which, I can actually improve the skills, the reading skills actually. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Samriddhi ma'am. Anyone like to give their input? Or you can write your responses in the chat box also, your takeaways from this session. So thank you, everyone. You've been such a wonderful participants. You actively participated in the chat. You responded to the questions well. Thank you very much. It was a very engaging session for me. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sunita ma'am. It was really a wonderful session. Even I attended it to the whole session, and I like to thank all the participants also, and Meenu ma'am as a co-host also. And this is our break time, and we'll meet sharp at 11:30. So today we have a break at this means right time, and after half an hour we'll be meeting. We'll meet at 11:30 sharp. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.